The natural environment. Learning objectives. At the end of this presentation, students should be able to explain the term natural environment, recognize the main elements of the natural environment, and discuss the components of the natural environment. Now, in terms of a definition, the natural environment is described as a surrounding which consists of components such as the ecosystem, the atmosphere, and the geosphere. Now, there are elements of the natural environment, and some of these elements are described as grasses and wildflowers, waterways and lakes, shrubs and bushes, deciduous and coniferous trees, rock outcrops, among others. Let's look at the ecosystem. The ecosystem, and this is pretty much components of the natural environment. This system is a community of living things and their non-living environment, and may be as large as a desert or as small as a puddle. Now, the ecosystem contains living organisms as well as dead and inorganic matter. The living organisms in an ecosystem can be described as producers, consumers, and decomposers. Now, all ecosystems require energy from an external source, and this energy source is usually the sun. Plants, for example, need sunlight in order to photosynthesize and produce glucose, which provides an energy source for other organisms. Speaking of plants, producers are the green plants, which make their own food through a process known as photosynthesis, as I alluded to earlier. While consumers are animals who get their energy by eating other organisms. These organisms include herbivores, which eat plants, carnivores, which eat herbivores or other carnivores, and omnivores, which eat both plants and animals. There are also decomposers, which are substances which break down dead plants and animals into organic materials that then goes back into the soil. Decomposers include bacteria, fungi, and some plants and animals. The diagram shows a simple ecosystem, and so we see the sun's energy being applicable to the ecosystem, where it enables the producer of plants to photosynthesize, and so by doing that they produce glucose, which is very useful for the consumers as a form of food. The primary consumer in this regard is the herbivore, and then these primary consumers are then eaten by the carnivore, which are the secondary consumers. And as the cycle continues, we have decomposers in the form of insects, worms, bacteria, etc., that pretty much benefit also from the ecosystem's process. And that's a typical example of ecosystems in terms of its cyclical activities. Now let's look at the natural environment component known as the atmosphere. This consists of the layers of gases surrounding a planet or other celestial body. Earth's atmosphere, for example, is composed of about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and only 1% of other gases. Now, these gases are found in layers known as the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere, and they are defined by unique features such as temperature and pressure. As can be seen by the diagram, the troposphere exists from the Earth to about 10 kilometers upward, and above this layer we have the ozone layer contained within the stratosphere, which is about 10 to 50 kilometers above the troposphere. Now, the atmosphere protects life on Earth by shielding it from incoming ultraviolet or UV radiation, keeping the planet warm through insulation and preventing extremes between day and night temperatures. Let's look at geosphere. Now, the geosphere is the physical Earth, which comprises of rock, magma, and soil. The geosphere extends from the center of the Earth, otherwise known as the core, to the mantle and to the crust. as far as to the dust in the atmosphere, and even includes the sediments found in the oceans. As the diagram shows, it shows you the number of activities happening in the geosphere. We see three primary rocks: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rock, which all melt to create magma, which then shoots up to create volcanoes or volcanic actions, which then flows in liquid form, molten rock in liquid form, to create new land masses. There's also weathering and erosion of rocks, different rock forms, which then are transported and are deposited as sediments into water sources. These can be sea, river, and oceans. In this regard, it settles by burial, sedimentation takes place, compaction, and then cementing. And by this process, sedimentary rocks are formed, by the way. This concludes this presentation. These are my references. Thank you.